Good afternoon. I see some people have already joined us live. Today, we have the South Texas Business Aviation Association teaming up with North Texas and the National Business Aviation Association, YoPro Council, to come together to talk about mentorship. It is a word that we hear frequently, but there's many different definitions, and there's often a lot of confusion on what the heck it means, how to find one, and how to actually benefit both parties in this relationship. So Emily is the co-chair with me on the mentorship committee with South Texas, based in San Antonio. I'm based in Austin. And we have a really big panel of expert speakers in our industry to talk to everyone today about mentorship. And so, Emily, thank you for being here with me today and for helping create this idea and bringing everyone together. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having the platform to be able to help us get this out to the masses.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking about this for a while. And, what we wanted to demonstrate is let's go for the low-hanging fruit. Let's do something that is easy. We'll use an existing platform. So this is also streaming as a special episode of The Lounge, my podcast, where I bring on many experts to talk about how we transition through life and face the turbulence. And when we talk about navigating turbulence in life, mentors help us with that. And so we wanted to come on today and talk about what does mentorship mean? You're going to hear a definition from all of us. We have a panel of 7 speakers across the 3 organizations, all veterans in business aviation in different areas, so that we can offer you that 30,000 foot view and new perspectives at the same time. So I'll go first. For me, mentorship is an opportunity to learn, and it is any interaction that I have that gives me that. So Emily is often a mentor to me when we have one-on-one conversations or when we're doing work together in the mentorship committee. It can also be my partner. It can be someone that I'm mentoring. They are an expert in something that I don't know how to use, for example, maybe something tech related, and they're now teaching me something. So for me, mentorship is always a two-way street, and it can happen at any moment at any time. I like to make it really informal because that opens my mind to learning in every single interaction. Emily, how would you define mentorship?
For me, mentorship is very similar, but it's also that person pushes me to be better every single time. They push me to want to go out and research, to bring even more to the conversations I have with the person who's mentoring me, because I always want to say, I'm going to come prepared. They're going to say, it may not be my area, but it pushes me to say, I can learn more, to believe in myself more than I thought I could. So for me, a mentor not only helps guide, but helps build my confidence to go out and learn so that when I do have conversations with them, I can talk below the surface level.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's an important aspect. Coaching often comes into play when we have mentors because they can see something that we can't see, right? And we might be a little bit hesitant. Change can be scary. We may not yet have the feeling that we can do something. And so having that confidence in us can give us that courage to take the step or to take the risk and do something new for the first time. So we have Cat Wren and Case May. We're going to bring them on the screen as well. So here's Kat's definition. She's got a much longer definition she's going to dive into as well. And we've got Case. So right now we've got the 4 associations all represented, which is super exciting. Kat and Case, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Excited to be here. And this is one of my favorite topics. So I was pleased to be on the panel.
Yeah, in true business aviation form, it kind of came together last minute and we all pulled it off. So well done, everyone. Thank you for saying yes. And in Case, thank you for being here to represent North Texas and help unify the state.
I think we've done a great job. I think we've got some great individuals that have obviously shown the drive to bring not just the groups together, but obviously how can we provide some insight for mentorship. And I think, once again, thanks, Sarah, for bringing me in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. So, Kat, I have your quote here talking about mentorship as being someone's guiding light. Can you elaborate a little bit more on your definition of mentorship?
Sure. Yeah, I've always referenced or referred to a mentor or mentorship as being somebody's guiding light. It is a unique opportunity for a mentor to really shape the future. It's a chance to share, not only your path and all the things that you've done in your career to get you where you are, but also share some of the things that you've done wrong or the mistakes you've made, because I know I've learned from my mentors what they've done wrong. And it's really helped guide me and maybe boost me ahead of what I would have been before. It's support, it's direction, it's advice, it's training, it's goal setting. And it shouldn't be looked at as complicated, and it shouldn't be scary. It just needs to be consistent to really make an impact.
Absolutely. I appreciate that reflection as well of learning from our mentors' mistakes also, because that can help us prevent, hopefully, from making similar mistakes. And it can help inform us how we might be able to navigate our own situations with a little bit more grace, a little bit more insight, and a little bit more confidence that even if we don't get it right, we will be able to make it right, right? We're going to learn and we're going to grow and evolve. And, we're going to keep getting back up and doing better and better each time we face a situation.
Confidence, that's a big word.
Yes. The big thing for many people is just the feeling that they can do something. But it's often not until you do something that you feel that you can do it, right? A lot of people think, when I feel this way, then I will do it. But the thing with the problem with that thought is that you will not feel that way because you've never done it before.
Mm.
So you actually need the action to drive the belief. And so when you can leverage someone else's actions or have their courage and confidence in you help give you the boost, then you're able to take the action, even though it feels a bit unsteady, and then you build the feeling up, which is how we build our confidence.
Mm-hmm.
We have a beautiful comment from Jessica Belcher saying, Cat is literally a guiding light with the sunbeam coming in over her shoulder. And I would have to agree. I was going to comment on that when we got started. We lined that up just to go with the quote, everybody. And we do have a wonderful panel. Case, I'd love to hear you expand more on your mentorship definition.
So a couple of things. I've had some formal mentor opportunities as well as some very casual, obviously going through my career over the last 20, 25 years. I've had the opportunity to sit next to some extremely influential people, and it's been such I feel very fortunate to have learned from some very knowledgeable, very, I guess, like-minded individuals that have great morals, great ethics, great business style. But beyond that, I think one of the things that I've learned through both of those scenarios is really finding people who are willing to listen on both sides of the table. Some of the formal mentorship involvement that I've been on, it seems like it's been more of a give and take more than just me trying to provide some mentorship to whether it's somebody that's new into the industry or younger that doesn't have as much experience. But I found myself learning as much from other individuals that have different perspectives, that have different insights, and being open to trying to figure out what's going to benefit both of us. And I think that relationship, it's crucial to be open, obviously for either side to be able to take some insight away from it.
Yes, absolutely. That two-way street, it is a relationship, right? And I would like to offer a reframe on the language, give and receive. Because I think one of the common core issues of finding a mentor is the feeling of, I don't want to be a burden to somebody else. I don't want to take up your time. I don't want to bother you, right? This is a very common narrative. I've experienced it myself. And so we want to shift the language to receive, because when we can receive, then we also have more to give. And so that's a really nice reframe for anyone out there that might be struggling with thinking that you're going to be wasting somebody's time if you ask for this support or if you ask for this guidance. It really is this two-way relationship. And so as you receive their advice and their mentorship, you also have the opportunity to give back, because you don't know what insight they're going to gain from your interaction, right? We often learn things that we didn't set out to learn just through the conversations that we have.
I think Case made a great point about formal, informal, right? There have been some mentors of mine that have become truly my best friends. Our kids play together on Saturdays and they become family. So when you have good, genuine human beings that want you to succeed, I've learned so much, even personally, at home from these mentors, even more so than I did, in their career or my career.
Absolutely. Yes. And we've got Honcho agrees with that. Tristan saying preach. And I'm loving all these photos that everybody's got tied to their YouTube, because this is often a side that we don't get to see of each other, right? Because our LinkedIn photos tend to be a little bit more on the professional side with an aircraft or a blazer on. Here we've got, dogs and cool hats and airplanes. And so it's a reminder that all of these people we're learning from and interacting with are human. Right. And so we can connect on that level, and the greatest friendships can be born from that. I know, Emily, you've had a lot of experience with different councils in our industry, different associations, and that mentorship has really guided you through that. And that's why, you and I came together to co-chair the mentorship committee. Can you share a little bit more about what your experience has been with mentorship and why it's been so important and why you see the value in helping others find mentors?
Yeah. So for me, one of the big things, well, partially, I'm a remote employee, so I don't work in an office. So for me to find my way in this industry, stay relevant, I continuously seek out mentorship to grow my skill sets and to network. I have to. It's a passion of mine. But with that point, there's so many different areas that we can be employed within this industry that you don't know about until you know about them. You come in normally, and if you're not flight crew, you're either, you work at FBO or you're at a 135 or a 91, and then you're doing sales or you're doing ops. And that's kind of the path. And it's like, what else is there? All these operations are businesses, and they all have to be run as a business. But very intricate businesses, right, that have these FAA regulatory guidelines that you also have to know and have to understand. So there's so much information. So for me, mentorship is huge because I've been able to make many different moves in my career without going back to school, except for going for a dispatcher's license, and be able to move through different departments, and be able to, learn a legal area and learn a finance area. And now I'm learning procurement, and be able to take all these different areas of how a business works without having to go and get an MBA. And if I didn't have mentorship, I wouldn't have these opportunities, because I didn't just say I'm going to apply for these, but through mentors that I've had, they've said, you have these skill sets. Why don't you look at this? Or let me connect you to this person over here and see if you're a good fit for them. So for me, I think mentorship is really important because we all want to grow our careers. We want to have great talent, and we want to have long-term longevity in aviation. So how do you do that? How do you not get burnt out? How do you not get in a rut? How do you not do the same job over and over and over again? But how do you build on your skill sets to be stronger and stronger, to be valued by an employer? So for me, that's really a big piece for me for mentorship.
Yes, absolutely. We have several comments from people watching. Candace has just said, how far mentorship can bring us. It's what you said, Emily. You don't know what you don't know. And in this industry, in business aviation, it's such a relationship-based industry. And very often those positions that you're finding through the networking, through the mentorship, are not advertised. They're more an idea, a thought of, we really need this. And then it's, oh my gosh, Case is the perfect person to do that thing. Let's talk to him, right? And so it leads to opportunities that you may not have otherwise considered. And so it's really important to go out and network and find those mentors. Kat or Case, do you have anything to add to that? I'd love to get your input as well.
Emily said it really well. Ultimately, you have the ability to unlock someone's highest potential by getting them out of their comfort zone, out of their box, and challenging them in ways that they never thought they could. I know that was a big, experience for me. Small town girl, had no idea about business aviation. I wanted to be the next Erin Andrews. And I remember Jamie Santiago Munoz, who a lot of folks know,
Yes.
I had just got done and checked off with tow training for aircraft training. And I remember sitting on a tug on our back 40, and she stopped me on the tug and she looked at me and she said, "You're going to help run this FBO one of these days." And I looked at her, and I am not even a year in, and I thought, this girl's crazy. And I still don't even know if I want to be in aviation. And then here I am, the bug bit me, and she has pushed me ever since. So it's the smallest comment and confidence in you that mentor gives you that can make all the difference.
Absolutely. And it's
I think that's
often,
I'm sorry, Sarah. I think that's a great point. I think the casual piece to that really is so important. And I think it's authentic when you have it that way. So if you have somebody, whether you feel like they're, whether it's in an authoritarian type position or just simply a friend. I mean, I think everybody on this panel has had friends that have provided them insight to push them to want to be better. And to your point earlier, Sarah, the connection of all of these dots. I mean, it makes this world go round. I think we can all attest to how small of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon it is. And really, this industry makes this thing so fun. And I think we were talking about the other day that I think, I don't know if it was, we had a luncheon the other day, and it was basically our industry. Do you remember, Kat, what those 2 points that Renee brought up that were side by side between employees and leadership? And I think partly it is because of our industry, but regardless of what they are, I think we all thoroughly have such a passion. That passion kind of almost, it's so intriguing. It drives us to want to help everybody else around us, at least for the type of people that I like to surround myself with. It's not just a matter of trying to make myself better or get as high as I can, but it's how can I help anybody else that might be starting out? Maybe it's get through the challenges that I had a little bit faster, a little bit easier.
yes, beautifully said. And when we look at it from that perspective, it's, it's extending that arm down to the person below you so that they can get that next step up on the ladder, right? Maybe they can't reach unless you reach that hand down. And we're just closing the gap on some of the informational gaps that we have, some of the understanding when you're a new entrant into this industry, no matter what your age is or what your experience is. And to Kat's point earlier too, with Jamie, it's very often those very small comments that are said almost in passing. Like, the person's not trying to be wise and really pump you up at that moment, but they saw something and they said it, and it was connected. And that's when we really take things on board too. So sometimes those, kind of passing by comments and remarks are things that can change your entire trajectory, right? It's we don't need a huge thing. We just need 1 degree. So this has been awesome. I'm going to take Emily, Case, and Kat off screen right now. We're going to bring some other parts of our panel on, and then we'll probably end up as the Brady Bunch at the end with everybody on screen. But we want to make sure that you can see everyone's face and really, engage with all of us. And please go ahead and type your comments in, type your questions. We'll be answering things live as well if you guys have some questions for any person in particular or just burning questions about mentorship. So thank you all, and we'll see you in just a little bit. We'll bring some new people on. All right, Tristan, Cassie, welcome. And Hunter. All right. How's everybody doing? We'd love to. I'll start with you, Cassie.
Okay.
What is your definition of mentorship?
I'll start from the beginning. Sorry, I'm super nervous.
Okay, just
my voice shakes. I apologize in advance.
Just breathe. You're going to do great.
So mentorship, everyone knows, you can look at the dictionary, the thesaurus. Everyone has that professional, the right meaning of mentorship. But for me personally, I think it's just a relatable individual, an acquaintance usually, who can provide honest, relatable feedback, criticism, advice, check-ins, just an honest person. And I think a lot of times in any industry that you're in, whether it's business aviation, corporate aviation, accounting, just any industry, it's it's the honest, relatable feedback and advice that really makes a difference. Oftentimes, my background, me personally, I came from accounting. I came from a very corporate world where it's like 7:45 to 5:15. And that's how I got sucked into aviation through accounting on Robert Half. And it opened a whole new world. I mean, back then, I think about it now, and I didn't really have an aviation mentor. I feel like I'm very late to the game. I've been in aviation now for 8 years. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about it, is because a lot of the things I wish I would have known 6 years ago, 7 years ago, because I think it would have just changed my life tremendously, because it has even to this day. Like I said, I started in accounting, went into accounting / scheduling with a corporate, a 91 company, and now I'm in business aviation, and I've already started and almost completed my dispatcher's license, and I've even started ground school to become a
Amazing.
pilot. And it's just like, who knows any of these things, right? When you think of
Right?
aviation and private aviation, you think of like Kim Kardashian's plane or Taylor Swift's plane flying 30 something hours across the world. And no one thinks that it's so close to home.
Right.
No one thinks that you don't have to have a pilot's license. You don't have to do any of that to get your foot in the door. But there's so many different doors out there to where, your life, your hobbies, your lifestyle can just change dramatically. And I think mentorship is so important for that reason. I mean, it just opens up so many doors and changes what you want to do.
Yeah, I love that. And I have to applaud your enthusiasm and for saying yes, even though you were nervous, because that's often another barrier, right? We're nervous to ask for that certain someone's help for whatever
Yes.
reason, or we're nervous to do the thing. But when we can face that and in despite of it still take some action, that's where we get really powerful moments. So you have just mentored so many people by demonstrating that. So thank you.
Yeah.
And I love that you were an accountant before, because a lot of people ask me, well, I studied accounting or I studied marketing. How can I get into aviation? And so you just highlighted that so beautifully. And we have a really very nice comment from Candace Johnson as well. And she's appreciating your mentorship. So gratitude for you as well. Tristan, let's go over to you. What is mentorship and why is it so important?
Well, first off, I was enjoying watching the first set of panelists so much, I kind of forgot that I was going to be roped up in this. Yeah, no, mentorship is one of these really interesting things that I didn't really appreciate what it was until I had that aha moment of, holy smokes, I think I have a mentor. And, Case and Kat had mentioned this earlier, but it's the informal versus formal. I walked into it thinking it's a suit and tie situation, right? It's overly process. It's a big, scary thing. You even mentioned that, like, if you want to be a mentee, I have to know what I want in order to seek the help.
Yeah.
But oftentimes I have no idea what it is that I want. And that's where the mentorship can really play in.
Yeah.
And then you realize mentors touch you on the personal and the professional side, right? It's a relationship that kind of weaves through life in a lot of different ways. So yeah, it's something that evolves. It's something that changes. I think there's a lot of responsibility that kind of limits mentorship. I hold somebody's future in my hands. If I give them the wrong mentorship, what's the cost of that? If I don't ask the right questions as the mentee, what's the cost of that? And until you realize that it really is just, Casey, you said it, an acquaintance, a friend, somebody that you are comfortable enough talking to. That's where the real magic of mentorship comes in.
Beautiful. And how has that really helped you? Why has that been so important in your career?
I think probably the main reason is you build a safe relationship. And the safe relationship helps you realize that all of the things that scare you scare other people too, right? So like, Cassie, if my Apple Watch was on, it would tell me that I'm exercising right now. I heard going all over the place. But it's realizing, we talk about networking, and I think that's one of the topics for today. And social anxiety still gets me. I've been going to NBAAs for years now, but that still gets me. It always feels better when I hear other people have that too. So I think that's part of mentorship. It's sharing the vulnerabilities and realizing you're not the only one.
Absolutely. I had someone say, Erica Armstrong said that the base event, NBAA in October every year, is the largest gathering of introverts in a public setting. And she's not wrong. So it is very important to feel safe, because that's when we get the courage to be able to make those different decisions. And I like the point you made of sometimes you don't know what you want to learn, or you don't know what you have to learn in order to get to the next level, because there's some fog in the way, right? And so a mentor can help clear that away and ask questions that will get you thinking in a different pattern, so you can start to navigate and go, oh, no, I don't really like it in that direction. Let me try over here. And then you get that mirror back with, of course, there's nuance there, which is why it's important to have different mentors, right? That you can bounce things off of and get these different perspectives, these different flavors, if you will.
And what I'll even say or add to that is, it's not always about helping understand what you do want. It's sometimes down selecting what you don't want.
Yes.
Sometimes that's the much easier outcome from a relationship like a mentor.
Yes, absolutely. Great point. Thank you. Hunter, over to you. How would you define mentorship?
Well, first off, thank you, Sarah, and everybody for putting this together. It's great to be here and have our North Texas folks with us. I really quick want to identify, Cassie, something on a relatable level. I was an accountant before I was a fighter pilot in the U.S. Air Force. So I guess there's a lot of ways to get into aviation. Accounting is one of them. So mentorship to me, I've seen it play out through military, through business aviation. So I can kind of bring that perspective in. In the military, I had a mentor tell me, well, he kind of asked me the question. He says, what wins wars? Very pointed. And I said, all right, but sounds like you're going to tell me. He says, it's relationships. And at first I kind of blew it off. We were in the middle of Afghanistan at the time. I was like, all right, sure. But as I've grown and learned more, I've seen the truth in that. And I mean, win wars, not just in the military, but out there in the civilian world too, of like winning the mission, of getting there safe, or getting to where you want to be in your desired area, your fields. So, that's a war that you're fighting kind of internally and externally. The world has a lot of competition, all this stuff. So how are we going to get there? And relationships, I've come to see how important those are. And fortunately, I've been able to be mentored by some excellent mentors, and kind of I pick up my definition from them in that. And in the end, a mentor is a friend because you trust them, right? And I mean, we're not going to trust somebody if they say, oh, hey, Tristan, you should go be a pilot tomorrow, or whatever. You're like, okay, sure. But like, hey, if we were friends,
bad advice.
But as we become friends, and you trust what I say, and say, hey, I've been watching you, man. You've really got good attention to detail. You should consider being a pilot. It brings that up in a friend way, and now it means something to you. So, mentor to me is so much a friend, somebody that you trust in that regard. And both have to be open to it, right? Mentor, mentee have to be open to that experience, because one person's looking for a mentor and mentors are like, nope, I'm busy on my own path. See ya, right? But mentors have to be able to listen for those cues of, oh, this person needs somebody, right, to help them out here. And why not? It was always defined this way in the military, of paying it forward. Somebody helped me get to where I was going. Success doesn't happen in a vacuum. We all get there together. I need help to achieve big goals, and people need my help to achieve their big goals. And so it builds on, it's not just a friendship, but now it's a network, because I know somebody that maybe I can't help you with that, but I know somebody can help you with that. I think that's mentoring also, is connecting people.
Yes.
You want to get here, I'm helping you however I can. That's what I see as a mentor-mentee relationship.
I love that. And within your career, I mean, you've just mentioned that you had several mentors. give you different definitions, but why has that been so important to you as you've navigated coming into business aviation after being an accountant, after being in the Air Force?
Well, for one, it's easy especially from the pilot perspective, to just tunnel vision down towards being an airline pilot. Like that's where everybody's going, right? They're paying a bunch of money, so why not? And mentors within business aviation have shown me other paths that I've really come to appreciate, and so it's opened my perspective quite a bit. And within business aviation, my mentors in this space have given me inspiration to do more in business aviation. Or I really find I'm connected to these people in business aviation. I find a deep connection. I feel, what Cassie was saying, that it's really done a lot for her in her life, right? And we've all made excellent, amazing connections through business aviation. And that's one of the things I'm most proud of over my pilot career is, if asked this in an interview, what's your most incredible achievement as a pilot? I'll still say to this day, it's building and maintaining relationships. It's been super important for me.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's a wonderful business aviation. Really does feel like a family at times, because we see each other at these events regularly, right? And we support each other. And we reach out to each other for personal things too, not just business things. I reached out to Tristan the other day when I was having a hard moment, and he helped me feel safe and have a place to land so that I could work through it. And then, continue on with my day. And that's the power of the mentorship that has that reciprocity, right? And where you have the vulnerability, because then, you're getting a objective answer. You're getting a question or a statement that's going to help guide you in a supported and informed way through whatever it is that you're trying to navigate, rather than, wanting a specific outcome. And so it's really beautiful to be able to nurture those relationships. So Tristan, I want to say thank you to that also.
Well, and what I would even say to that, to want to add one extra point, it's not always. Sometimes it's about identifying the hard truths and facing the hard truths, right? It's the not wanting to identify something in yourself and having a safe space to be able to do that and be able to explore that thought and what it means downstream.
Yes, absolutely. Because sometimes looking in the mirror as a leader, as a human, is difficult, right? As much as we like to think that we may have solved something within ourselves, it might come back up. We might get triggered. We might revert to an old behavior, and that is okay. It does not make you a bad person. It's important, though, to just remind yourself of what are your values, what are you here for, and keep working towards that which you want to be by being it as much as possible. And mentors help with that. Asking the hard question and helping hold you through that process so that you can get to the other side, which is really powerful. I'm going to bring Mr. Chuck on screen here. I'm going to just pop Hunter off for just a second, and then we're going to bring everybody on stage, and we'll dive into some of the questions that we have and continue expanding the conversation. Chuck, thank you for helping us kickstart mentorship when we launched STXBAA last year, and for recruiting so many eager people to help out with the association. I would like to know, how do you define mentorship?
Well, thanks for putting this on, Sarah. I love this so far. I think that a mentor is a leader, right? It's a role model. I think that people miss that. It's someone that's somewhere that you want to be. That person could be a sponsor, a coach, a teacher. It can be everything, right? So it is wide and deep. I think that it's important that, some people think that leaders create followers. I think that leaders make great leaders, right? So I think that's what a mentor is.
Awesome. And why is mentorship important to you? What has it done for you in your career?
I think it's helped me a lot. I mean, I've had mentors all through my career. Some of them I didn't realize were my mentor, but I know me and Hunter have the same mentor that I've had for a long time. Bob Rasky, who's the 2023 Flight Instructor of the Year. So he's been extremely helpful. and just helping me with everything from flight instructing to the military, anywhere in my career to help me navigate where I want to be.
Beautiful. Yes.
I'd like to buddy off of what Chuck said for a second.
Yeah.
I think becoming a mentor, you know, if you are really serious in whatever industry, job that you're in, it's super important to become a mentor if you can, if you have the time, which sometimes it's what, seconds out of your day, sometimes it's hours if someone's just venting to you, because there are often times where you don't realize, I think this was mentioned before, what you don't know. Like you think you may know something, how to do your job, something about anything aviation or your company, and then you're explaining it, you're talking it through with someone, and it's, I think I need to brush up on what, you know, the EAPIS rules are or whatever it is that, you know, you're talking about, or fees and sales. And I think for aviation, it's very hard to find someone who's willing to become a mentor outside, I think, me personally, of the pilot side, because it is very competitive. It's a very, I don't think I've ever been in a very as much competitive world, besides like sports. And it's just, I mean, everyone's trying to do everything and fly the same flights or be part of the same team. And finding someone who, again, is just there because they want to be there. They love planes, they love aviation, they love what they're doing, and want to grow it themselves. If you find that person, catch them before they take off, because it's really hard to find that in this industry, I feel like. And I think it's why it took me so long to find a mentor, because everyone else was just running at the speed of light, flying at the speed of light, trying to go on to the next quote or the next trip or the flight or, you know, the next event, that you just kind of get wrapped up in just your everyday life.
Yeah.
So that's pretty important.
Absolutely.
Love that, Kathy. And I think that, you know, if you want a mentor, all you have to do is ask. I don't think that you're being a burden on people if you ask somebody to be their mentor.
Yes.
I was at NBAA base this year and set up a
Chuck, we're getting a little bit of interference with your microphone and can't hear you clearly.
Is that better?
Try again.
How about now?
Yep.
Okay, so I was at NBAA base, and Ian Lump set up a WhatsApp chat with like 100 people. I sent out a message on that chat, and I said, "Who wants to be a G650 captain?" And I thought I would get all these replies. I got one. That one person had the courage to reach out to me, right? And he actually flew to College Station, Texas to have lunch with me today. So it is relationship based. It takes the courage to reach out to people. And it is a friendship, right? And it's showing people the way.
Yes. And Cassie, I really like what you mentioned, because when we are so focused on outcome only, that is when we start to forget about why we are in this industry. Business aviation really is driven by very passionate people. You know I'm in the right place when everybody's like this, when there's a sound in the sky, right? Because we're all looking up.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of my friends asked me, they're like, "Why are you always looking up?" I'm like, "Don't you hear that?" You know, and when we are around each other, that's what often happens. And so, this is a reminder to everyone who's listening to not make it about yourself. How can you go? We go further together, right? If you want to go far, you need to have the people that can support you, that you can learn from. And I think Case mentioned it earlier. It's like an ATM, right? As much as I would love to go to the ATM right now and pull out $1 million, it's just not going to happen. Not yet. Won't happen today, right? But when we invest our energy, our time, our attention with somebody else, that will then earn compounding interest over time if you continue to invest in it, right? And that is then when you need the support, you have that phone call of I need help. They're there to support you because you have given them your energy and time. Now they get to reciprocate. And it won't always happen on the same day. It may not happen for years. You might meet someone on this mentorship call, on this webinar, in the comments. And then a year from now, you're going to have an interaction with them and it's going to turn into a relationship. So it doesn't always happen right away. And I encourage everyone to really get out of the outcome focus and focus on being the best you can be and showing up. When we do that and we're curious, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to bring everybody on stage now. We're going to act like we're the Brady Bunch a little bit and have everybody here. Relationships win wars. Yes, Hunter, absolutely. And sometimes that war is inside of ourselves, right? It's the war of what do I do next? How do I know if I'm making the right decision? What's the right answer? And there may not always be something that's clear internally, but then when you go outside and you get the perspective, everyone on this call here, I've had one-on-one conversations with and had different perspectives shared that have ultimately helped me navigate conversations, the way I write a post, the way I show up and answer somebody's question, whether you realize it or not. So you're always influencing other people. And that's why it's so important to be present, to slow down, put the phones away, and connect. We had a question that I want to share from Erica Armstrong. She has been both in the airline world and in business aviation. And she wanted to thank all of us. And she also wanted to ask, how can we help connect mentors and mentees? Often we know that it's something we want, something that we need, but we're not sure of the very next steps. So I know YoPro has some progress here. I know Women in Aviation has a little bit, but I'd like to defer this question over to you, Kat, first to talk about how people can get started.
Absolutely. This is one of our favorite subjects, as I mentioned before. This is where YoPro Go was created. The Young Professionals Council, by word of mouth, has become bigger and bigger over the last probably 4 years. And we've had such a huge interest of people wanting to get involved, get connected, be mentors, be mentees, that we had to create a platform to justify all of this need. And so that's where YoPro Go was created. You can find that at NBAA.org under our Young Professionals tab. And it's really an opportunity with Jamie Munoz and I, we co-chair that chapter or that committee, to really push connection. One of our goals this year is, we have Zoom calls quarterly, but one of our goals this year is to break down into smaller regionals. That means if you don't live in a bigger city like Dallas or Houston, Austin area, where they have the North Texas Business Aviation, the Georgia Business Aviation Association, if you're in these smaller rural communities, this is an opportunity for you to create an organization to then share connection, share knowledge, have guest speakers, create a scholarship fund for kiddos or even adults who are trying to further their education in the business aviation sector. Thank you, Sarah, for throwing that link up there. Please sign up. We have over 416 as of today, people that have signed up with interest in wanting to get involved. And I think it's really, the onus is now on us as far as the people on this call and the local regional groups to take these and really make it happen in our regional groups.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yes. And it's sometimes, we need to take action ourselves and stop waiting for it to happen, right? Finding a mentor is an active process on the mentee's part also. And so it's so exciting to see how fast YoPro is going. I know that I wish that had existed when I started 15 years ago in the industry. And it's really cool to see the life that it's grown. And I do encourage everyone to join the WhatsApp group that was created after base as well. There's just a really nice community in there, and there's some regular calls that Ian Lump has set up for us as well. So if you're interested, you can go ahead and comment or send me a message afterwards. We'll share that WhatsApp link with you. And I'm getting everyone to answer how they can find a mentor. But I'd like for anyone else who might be ready with an answer to just come off mute and share, how would you go about finding a mentor? What have you done in the past, and what can people start to do, whether they're remote or within their own organization?
I'll go. So one thing I think that is big that I don't think that people take advantage of is the scholarships that are available from all the associations out there, to be able to go to things such as base, leadership, schedules and dispatchers, do PDP courses, your CAM. So, South Texas has scholarships, schedules and dispatchers has scholarships, Women Aviation has scholarships, the YoPro Council has scholarships. By applying for those scholarships, you can then go to these events and you can then interact with people in classes that you wouldn't have the chance to meet before. And now you brought in your network, and now you can actually find some mentors that you may not find otherwise. You can go on LinkedIn, join groups, join the WhatsApp, but sometimes putting that face to a name, sitting in a classroom with somebody, learning topics, asking questions, sharing a business card after really helps the next step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of goes back to, joining these local regional groups. There's so many associations. There's Central Florida. There's literally within Florida, I think there's 3 different main groups and then smaller ones within that. So you can find groups everywhere: women in aviation, women in corporate aviation. There's pilot groups, maintenance groups, dispatcher groups, so finding your people. And then also finding adjacent, like if there's a section that you're interested in going and joining some of their meetings, learning more about what it's like to be there, so that you can decide, to Tristan's point earlier, is that something for you, or is that not an avenue that you want to explore? And then in that process, you're going to meet some really amazing people. And the in-person interaction, I highly encourage you to go to those rather than only the online meets or joining via Zoom, unless it's really far for you and it's really difficult for you to make it. But when you have the opportunity to go in person, definitely do that. Nothing replaces that face-to-face interaction. Anyone else want to jump in with some additional comments?
Yeah, I'll jump in, Sarah. I think to find a mentor, I think one of my mentors is watching this right now. I see Justin Walworth on there. I was looking for a G650 job a couple years back, and he reached out to me and talked to me, and I kept in touch with him, right?
Yeah.
I called him weekly or bi-weekly, and built a relationship, showed him I was curious, showed him I wanted to participate, and it got me the job.
Beautiful. Very similar to what Cassie said: natural and formal conversations, right? And we underestimate the value in these connections. And JV's just shared a really good quote here on the power of connections. Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. Very well said. Nice. Yes. Anyone else watching, if you have some wonderful quotes you want to share, please share them on there so we can pop them up on the screen. Case, do you have any comments? I want to see from your perspective how you found mentors in your career and also within the association work that you do.
Well, I'm going to go the other side of it, because I feel that there's a large group of individuals that are willing to mentor. I think it's actually, and maybe this is something that Cat can speak to a little bit more. Obviously, having 400 people within that group is very encouraging, but I think anybody that's involved, whether it's a leadership role or otherwise within a local and regional group, can honestly say that they advocate for their group. Any young individual that I'm speaking to, whether it's a pilot or a scheduler, whoever it may be, I encourage them to get in as involved as they possibly can be. Come to a meeting, check out NBAA. Obviously, find ways to organically try to create that relationship. And beyond that, I don't actually try to mentor people from that standpoint. I'm usually, whether it's making a recommendation of somebody else, hey, I've got a couple of pilot friends that can speak to you a little bit more technical of how to navigate the role that probably is more in line with something that they have, as opposed to some experiences that I have. But it really, I think that's been the hardest thing from NTBAA's standpoint, is trying to generate the response from the mentee standpoint. And I think most of the ones that we've had come, going back to what Emily said, from the scholarship opportunities that we've provided. Oddly enough, it's some of that might be on us as a group, but I think it's trying to stay involved and engaged with those individuals to try to help them. Obviously, whether they're extremely busy transitioning, whether it's through high school into college or from college into a career, I think really it's kind of up to us to keep that engagement level as high as we can, so that we can, whether it's, like I said, whether it's stay engaged with them directly or provide other connections back to some people that might be able to help them as well.
Awesome. That's great. And it is important for us to have both perspectives, right? So that, sometimes people are overwhelmed by the undertaking they think it might become to be a mentor. And that's why we wanted to have this webinar as well, to talk about, the fact that there's informal and formal. So depending on your bandwidth, that is the conversation that you can have and say, I'm really happy to, give you some guidance, but right now I can't get on Zoom, but I'm happy to do voice notes, or I'm happy to, do some emails back and forth. You can dictate the terms and the boundaries of the relationship. And it's very important that you do so, because otherwise it can become all consuming. And what we don't want is anyone to feel ghosted. We don't want people to feel like they have been abandoned, or that they're not showing up. They're not respecting the mentor's time. And so I think that's a nice segue into our question of being a good mentee. Has anyone ever had an experience with a bad mentee, someone who was not showing up? I would be curious to hear that experience, if you have had that.
Yeah, I've definitely been ghosted by one particular mentee that was not prepared to face one of the uncomfortable things that I brought to the table. And it was a simple thing of, if you're asking for outside help, you try to make it as easy as possible. And the response that I got was, if you're not going to help me get the first job, if you're not going to help me get that first move, then this isn't useful. So I think it's about understanding expectations going into the relationship, and what you're trying to get out of it is pretty important.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you, Tristan. And, to that point again, it sounds like the mentee there was very outcome focused. And, it's finding a mentor is not just to get the next job. While that might be a benefit you can enjoy, ultimately that still lies with you and how you show up and how you communicate when you go through interviews, when you go through your process, but very clearly communicating from both sides, the time expectation, what you would like to learn, if what guidance you're open to receiving. The sad fact is, our school systems have not really set us up to learn how to give feedback or receive feedback or do anything with the feedback. So learning those are also a skill set. Understanding that it's not a personal attack. If you're entering into this container where you are asking to be guided, understand that there might be some things that might be shocking if your awareness has not been on that point before, and that's okay. You now have an opportunity to grow and benefit from that. Has anyone else had an experience with a mentee that they would like to share?
I had one. So I didn't get ghosted, but they wanted the answer key to how to do their job. Mm-hmm. So they didn't want to be guided. They didn't want to grow. They wanted the actual steps that they needed to do their job.
Right.
And the mentor-mentee is not for the mentor to do your job for you.
Right.
Yeah. So I would say learning that it's not to have that person just tell you how to do your job. It's not that I'm telling you so you can turn around and have your boss look like you know what you're doing. Right. But it's to ask questions. It's to have conversations. It's to say, if you're a mentee, I was researching this and I have a question about this. The mentor can bring topics to help push you to say these are relevant topics in the industry or related to things that you should be learning. Let's discuss these. Let's push the boundaries. Let's expand your knowledge so you are stronger in a day-to-day basis.
Yes, I love that. I think also it's really important to remember that, if you don't know what you don't know, and if you're not communicating what you have researched, then it's really hard to identify the gap and close it, right? And there is no magic pill, and no one can do the push-ups for you. As much as that would be wonderful, we could all have six packs. That's not how it works, right? We have to go and do the reps ourselves. So understanding that's, it's anytime I get asked a how question, I'm going to tell everyone right now, if you're looking for me to be a mentor, if you ask me how, I will just come back with another question. Because I want to see where your thought process is and where you're coming at it from, what perspective, because that's where we can nail down something that's going to work for you. Because I might tell you how I do something, and that might be the complete opposite of what will actually help you, because we have different energies. Maybe I'm an extreme extrovert and you're an introvert. So that strategy is just not going to work for you, right? And so it's really important to understand those things as well.
Now, to add to that, oh, I'm sorry, Sarah.
Go ahead, Cass.
All right, I was going to say, to add to that, what I love about aviation is that it's constantly changing. No one can ever know every process, rule, regulation, airport, runway. I mean, it's just constantly changing, which you have to be that type of person to truly value and appreciate that. There are a lot of people who start out in aviation and they don't like that. They don't like the constant change, the fluidness of aviation. And you can tell in their work, their daily life, and they just drag their feet. And it's, being able to tell that person, okay, well, I think it's time you try something else. But for those who have been in aviation for more than, say, a number, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, my personal experience with a mentor, having a mentee, was this person had been in aviation for over 15 years. And we connected. They, came over and brought a lot of value, a lot of information for things that just weren't quite relevant anymore. A lot of things have changed, and they were set in their ways of thinking, of doing certain processes, and they were unable to receive any critiques, any feedback for their current position, their current job, their current environment. And it was not a good experience. And just being able to, no one can ever always just be a mentor. Great mentors, I believe, are also regularly menteed. Again, just with business aviation, with aviation, you're constantly learning, and hopefully you never get complacent to where you're just set, where you're still learning, you're still networking with new people. There's a reason why, the YoPro is so big, because there's always hundreds and thousands of new faces, new knowledge, new information, new networking that can be made and had. So being a good mentor is also being a good mentee as well.
Beautifully said. Thank you. The top of the top in our world, whether they're a sports leader, a politician, a Fortune 100, the owners that fly the aircraft that we manage, they all have mentors. They all have coaches. They all have their personal board of directors, people that they go to, they seek advice from, they bounce ideas off of. And you hit the nail on the head. When you stop learning and when you start thinking that you know everything, that's usually when you start to fail. There's the life cycle of organizations as well, that you reach maturity, and then all of a sudden you coast and you start to decline, and competition passes you by. It's the same for individuals and their growth as well. Hunter, I believe you had something you wanted to throw in. Let's hear what you have.
Well, I'm happy to throw in. I had something. I think it was what Emily was saying, as far as kind of goes back a little bit, but as far as how to find a mentor is to get out there, give your business card out and things like that. Just a quick story. I was in Philadelphia flying the G100, had landed, and someone came up to me in the door and said, "Hi there. I wanted to introduce myself and ask you a few questions." I said, "Sure, give me a minute. Let me finish my paperwork." Came out and we started talking for about 15 minutes. And I introduced, well, he basically said, "Hey, I want to fly jets. I want to be where you are." This is to Chuck's point of find a mentor who is where you want to be. He was coming up to me and said, "Hey, I want to fly jets as soon as possible. How do I do that?" And we've beat it a little bit, but I introduced him to I guess it's the Northeast Business Aviation Association. Said, "Hey, check this out. Find a local mentor as well, somebody who knows the environment here." I would say that's a good thing too. I mean, mentors and mentees can be across the country or across the world, but having a local mentor is a big deal too, because they understand the local environment. They understand, they can meet up, which is also nice, just meet them in person. So a local mentor, if you can, is great. I've mentored people from thousands of miles away or been mentored the same, but being close really helps too. So, but yeah, he gave me his card and I plan to stay in touch with him. A quick note to the mentor that both Chuck and I share, something he said to me somewhere along the line, but he's like, if you're a good mentor and you just leave it at that, and by a good mentor, I mean, we could go into a whole different discussion about that, but your mentee will keep coming back to you basically if you've been able to provide them value. So providing them value, they come back to you and you have a great relationship perpetually. So I just wanted to put that out there, that the mentor is there. Once that relationship is established, the mentee, it's almost like an open door to come back. It should be, at least.
Beautiful. I love that. So that's, whether you have a digital or physical business card, find a way to connect with people and be curious. If you just ask people to share their experience, that's often going to get a positive response, as long as you're not overbearing, right? There's a time and place, but that is important to just ask. And the more you ask, the more you get comfortable, the more you learn, the easier it becomes. And so it's a skill set. We do have a question from Hannah, and her question is, any advice for reaching out to individuals who you think would be great mentees, meaning that you've identified this person as high potential, and sharing the value of being a mentee, or how you might be able to become their mentor. So I would like to see, does anyone want to jump in here on this question?
I can. If they haven't already approached you to be a mentor, but you have realized that they could be a good mentee, you're probably already in the same department, hopefully, and just really try to connect with them. Part of my definition, of being a mentor is just giving honest, relatable feedback, and that's just an open dialogue. Even tips to network. Some of my mentees, who I would consider friends, it's just picking their brains and asking, kind of what Sarah said, their question. And that just starts opening their mind and their world of what else is out there. Maybe it's as simple as they find the solution, or they find the answer, or they throw a question back at you and you're like, wait a second, are you trying to mentor me now? And you just start to just develop that relationship. And then months down the road, weeks down the road, years down the road, it's then you realize, or that person realizes, I think I was being mentored. I think I would consider this person my mentor. And you don't realize it in that moment, in that environment, in that space, but down the road, you may realize that that person was your mentor without having a formal name or a title.
Yes. I think that's really well said. We don't need to have it be a formal thing. You don't have to go, oh my gosh, you're my mentor, right? You can just simply say, hey, thank you for that perspective. I got asked a question at leadership, which in the similar vein of question, it was around, how do you help someone in your team or someone that you are mentoring or leading that might be approaching burnout to recognize that they are about to hit a wall when they don't think that there's anything wrong. So it's kind of the same thing here. Like, maybe they don't realize that they can ask for help. And so it's simply about having those informal conversations, asking them questions to get them thinking in a new way, and sharing your experience. If you talk to that person and you say, hey, I had a call with my mentor the other day. We met like 10 years ago and now we're best friends, but I often go to them for advice and I just learned this thing. It was so great, right? You're just sharing your experience, but that's going to plant a seed. And hopefully that will also encourage them to start to ask you questions or start to reach out to other people in their network. We never want to force, because the human nature response is to resist, right? I lean in, you're going to pull back. I pull back, you're going to lean in. And so we want to make sure that we're aware of where that person is at and how much they can actually receive at that time. But ultimately, sharing your experience with how you've learned from coaches and mentors that you've worked with is going to really help set the light bulb off for other people.
And sometimes it's simply checking in on them, even though you may not have a relationship with them. I have a quick story about a gal that I saw some potential in. She, I think, applied to be on the YoPro Council, and I had reached out to her and said, "Hey, let me know how I can help," And she opened up to me about her dad passing away. I lost my dad in 2017, and for us to connect on this personal level right out the gate, she let her guard down and she's like, okay, I can get through this grieving process. And then it was steps as to goal setting for her career. And I think it's just breaking down some of those barriers and just checking on people.
Yes, I love that. Thank you, Kat, for bringing that, because that really reminds me of at leadership when we had the panel where Joe D'Amato shared about being a working daughter, meaning that her parents are aging, their health is failing, and her experience in that, and it's been really tough. And she was able to help another colleague in the industry with a similar situation and identifying, this person had sent in a resignation, and this leader had reached out to Joe, and Joe was able to ask these questions of that person, because you probably think they're performing still, right? And he's like, oh yeah, this person's great. And she said, but this person might be thinking, I'm not giving my 100%. I'm distracted. I'm making mistakes, when in reality, we're putting it up too high, right? We're not performing to our standard, but to your point, Kat, different mentors at different points. We also have different output at different points, different energy at different points. And so being able to just ask, be there for someone, or if you see someone's having a hard time, just say, hey, looks like, you're not your normal cheery self. Tell me what's going on. Can I help in any way? And that opens the door for a very raw and authentic conversation to happen. And that can, turn into friendship, mentorship, and could be one time, but it will impact that person. And ultimately, that's what mentorship is. It's impacting another person. It's learning from them. And in that process, we all grow.
So Hannah, if you have somebody in mind, you better reach out. Maybe this is a sign.
Yes, for everyone. If there's someone that, has helped you in your life, I just did this exercise in a leadership program I lead, and it was send a handwritten note to someone who has impacted your life, whether they know it or not. Bonus points if they're not actually aware of it. And so, Kat, you've already shared your moment with Jamie there on the tarmac. But if there's someone that, they said a comment to you, they shared a quote, they reached out and said, hey, how are you doing today after something big happened? Take an opportunity to spend a couple minutes and write them a note, send it the old school snail mail. That way you will surprise and delight them. And it's going to also bond both of you together in a much stronger way. And again, it's that human element. So I encourage everyone watching to go and write a letter to someone who's impacted you, no matter how big or small, and just let them know that they made a big difference in your life.
Well, that's a great point, Sarah. I had somebody call me recently and ask, I really want to send somebody that's really helped me over the course of the last year a gift. Do you have any ideas? Well, trying to come up with a gift for somebody else is a little hard. And that's exactly what I said is a handwritten note goes a long way. It shows personal, authentic, I think, care and obviously the time, the consideration it takes to do something like that. But I thoroughly appreciate the idea of multiple mentors in every aspect of your life, whether it's just your personal life. And I've got many mentors that help me throughout different times that I might need or am seeking some sort of help. I reached out to one today that knows a lot more about this certain topic than I've ever dealt with, and it's really encouraging when you can get an immediate response. And the other thing that I would encourage everybody, if you are a mentor, be available as much as you can be. Don't shy away from those questions. These people are reaching out to you because they obviously need help. And if you can't, at least respond to them in a timely manner and let them know when you can. I think that's been brought up, but I think it's crucial for somebody that's seeking it, obviously. But one quick story, I've got somebody that I always considered a mentor, and we had probably been friends for 10 to 15 years. And at some point, I said, "You've been such a great mentor to me." And she said, "That's kind of strange because I thought this whole time you were my mentor." And we found such joy out of just relishing in the idea that we were both helping each other along the way throughout that entire time.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Case. I love that. I had a very similar interaction recently as well, where I expressed gratitude to a mentor, and he said, "That's funny because I consider you my mentor too." And so it's really powerful to express gratitude. Andrew Huberman has a whole podcast on it. The gratitude practice is the most powerful when you receive it from someone else. So let's be the ripple effect and spread some gratitude to the people who have impacted us. We've got a few minutes to wrap up here. This has been an amazing panel. Thank you, everyone, for showing up today, sharing your wisdom, your insights. I would like to ask everyone, what is one resource, whether it's a book, a podcast, a quote that you'd like to share in our closing kind of comments? And I will share them on the screen. We'll put them in the comments afterwards as well. Cassie, I see you first on my screen. I'm going to ask you to go first.
Resources. I would just say your industry friends. Just your everyday phone calls of people that you're talking to in this industry, your coworkers, your pilots, your leadership. Yeah.
And is there a book or a quote or a podcast, not necessarily relating to mentorship, but just something that recently has really helped you in your process of growth that you would recommend to people right now?
My head is already in the books for for learning, so I haven't really done much outside of
That's totally fine.
But yeah, if anything, it'd just be your peers for resources.
Got it. Beautiful. Yes, and sometimes that's what we need is just the conversation. Thank you, Cassie. Tristan.
Yeah, LinkedIn is free, right? So I think it's the easiest resource of finding who you want to talk to. If you don't know them, look at your network for a corresponding overlap and ask a friend to make an intro. I do maybe 2 intros a week, give or take, and I love writing them. I think putting a well-placed ask is a good way to go. And in terms of resources, Chuck is the one who put me onto the Daily Stoic, and that is my daily ritual.
Yes, I love that. I'm a member of the Daily Stoic, so I do their courses. I'm currently doing the Taming Your Temper course, and it's very good. Which I think a lot of people in our industry, especially if you're in dispatcher scheduling, you're flying with a constantly changing flight schedule, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a very valuable course. I'll just say that. Chuck, I see you next on the screen. What would you share as your top resource for people to check into?
I think I've found some value out of the NBAA network or mentoring network, right? I think there's some good people on there. I've steered some people to the NBAA mentoring network, and it's helped them greatly. I think it's a great resource to find aviation mentors. It's a great resource to find mentees.
Yes.
Books, I think Tristan stole mine. So there is a book that I'm actually going through. It's a workbook called Motivational Interviewing. which I think is great. I can share the link later after this call. For podcasts, there's one that always keeps me coming back, and it's called Founders. And it's pretty much biographies of everyone that's ever been great, right? And a lot of those stories involve mentorship.
Beautiful. Thank you. Short little story about motivational interviewing. I actually met the author of that textbook workbook on the flight after base last year. We sat down next to each other, had a conversation, and lo and behold, his son is a corporate jet pilot in Texas. So I was like, what are the odds of that happening? So again, talk to people, ask questions, be curious. You never know who you're going to meet next. Emily, I'm going to go to you because I know you're going to have to jet in a couple minutes. What would you like?
I'm just going to go with my mantra that I live by, which is get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Everybody else is giving great resources for everything else. That's what if you're comfortable, you're never going to push out your boundaries and grow.
Absolutely. And in this business, in this industry, we can face discomfort every single day. So instead of avoiding it, let's lean into it. Awesome. Thank you. Hunter.
Hey, thanks. I guess just kind of a thought is, like, when I was a fighter pilot, people would tell me, like, wow, you must be really smart to be a fighter pilot. That's amazing. I'm like, well, it's not true. I'm not really smart. I just wanted to be a fighter pilot more than anybody else in the room wanted to be a fighter pilot. That's why I became one. So I'd recommend that to anybody. If you want to be something, be it more than anybody else wants to be it, and pursue it like nothing else. And that's just general advice, but it works. I can tell you that, going from being an accountant to a fighter pilot to a business jet pilot.
I love that. Thank you. I'm reading the last lecture right now, and one of the comments in there was, the brick wall is not there to deter you. It's to deter everybody else that doesn't want it like you do. So I think that's great. Thank you so much. Kat.
Y'all, I wish having a 3-year-old, I would read more. It doesn't happen. So I'm on the podcast train. But I will say everything that everybody said is spot on as far as your network and local regional groups and NBAA. But books and podcasts, anything Brene Brown or Christy Wright, they speak to my soul. And they direct their energy. Not only are they badass, they're raw, they're real, but they direct their energy on you becoming the best version of yourself, because we all know if we're not full, we can't be a good mentor. We cannot be a good employee. We cannot be a good friend. And so they speak a lot of goodness as far as being vulnerable. What are you filling your calendar with? Is it worth, your time? And are you too busy? And they're really good to reflect on yourself.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kat. Yes, it's important that you have your own oxygen mask on before you assist others. Hopefully that analogy lands with this audience very well. All puns intended. Case, over to you.
So something that I think Cassie said earlier, and kind of leaning with what Kat said just now, I love being around people that I feel either have the energy that I'm seeking, whether it's walking by their office to see if there's something that I might be able to just overhear, or simply whether it's an FBO and I know there's somebody over there that I really just want to go see, and trying to find individuals that, whether it's they put you in a good mood that day that you might need a little extra oomph, if you will. Beyond that, I think, to what Tristan said earlier, LinkedIn, I find a lot of stuff within LinkedIn. I've done a lot of leadership, whether it's just simply daily posts. Ryan Leake was a speaker at Leadership. I signed up for his, I think, weekly text that he sends out. Those types of things are so easy if you can find them, to simply, you don't have to try that hard to be reminded of the little things that can maybe make you think, what can I do differently today to make me a little bit better?
Absolutely. I love that. Emily also shared that having different plans, backups, we are in aviation, we plan for schedules, diversions, AOGs, weather, understanding that things may not go exactly as you originally planned, being able to pivot and be agile. It's rarely a linear path, right? There's a lot of like squiggles and kind of going in circles sometimes before we can kind of get to the next level. So understanding that that's life. That's not just our industry. That's not dispatching aircraft, but being okay to change. And again, that's where being comfortable to get uncomfortable is. I would really like to share this gentleman, Corey Muscara. He is a former monk and mindfulness advisor for the Oz Show and an instructor at University of Pennsylvania. He also has a text thing that you can sign up for Monday through Friday. You get a little text with a little bit of insight, a little bit of wisdom, great content on social media. And that's what I would encourage people to look forward to, because mindfulness is really how you build your awareness. It's how you do things with intentionality. And ultimately, those things will help you in your journey of mentorship on both sides of the equation. So with that, we conclude today's webinar. Thank you so much for everyone who joined live. We had great interaction. Thank you for sharing your comments and resources and energy with us. And Emily, Cassie, Tristan, Chuck, Hunter, Kat, Case, thank you so much. This has been a joy and a pleasure. I had a lot of fun, and I appreciate you all being here.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, team.